Thanksgiving to New Year's is one of the busiest times for most people. And as if those 6 weeks weren't stress-inducing enough, some people actually begin preparing for the season before the end of October, trying to add more time to prepare, to try to catch up or even get just a little bit ahead. We've slowly removed the need to wait from our culture. We value people who invent ways to make us wait less or not at all. We end up robbing ourselves of the richness and the beauty that comes with patient anticipation. This Advent, we're going to take a look at each of the 4 Gospels and see how they uniquely present Messiah's first Advent and what it means for us as we prepare for what his birth entails beyond the manger, beyond the cross, and even beyond today as we explore what it means to await the already. We begin with the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1. Mark actually never mentions Messiah's first Advent. In verse 9, Jesus is a grown man. As a matter of fact, one of the key words in Mark's Gospel is immediately. It's used 41 times, more than 3 times more than all the other Gospels combined. So it hardly seems the place to begin our patient anticipation. In verses 1 through 8, he begins with John the Baptizer. During this holiday time, we get so absorbed with the world in our heads or the glitz and the glam that's immediately in front of us that we miss what we're really supposed to see. In contrast, John is that voice in the wilderness getting our attention and calling us to refocus and not go into Advent with the same mentality we've had before. We live in an artificial world of our own construction and not a world that invites us into the mystery and wonder of simple faith. We feel like we aren't ready for the season, and that's the point. We aren't ready for God to break into our lives because we're too busy living in our self-made world. And when we finally get to Advent, we want to run straight to that quiet country hillside with the shepherds and that starry, starry night with the angels, because it gives us a comfortable nostalgia of a time before life got chaotic and confusing. But John the Baptizer's message grabs our attention to recalibrate our lives back to what's important, to prepare for Messiah, to surrender to the mystery, the complexity, and the wonder of his incarnation, of Emmanuel, God with us. He shouts at us to wake up from our stress-induced coma with the words, "Prepare the way of the Lord." In Mark chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, it says, "The beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, 'Behold, I send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare the way. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, make ready the way of the Lord, make his paths straight.'" In these verses, Mark only gives credit to Isaiah, but actually in verse 2, he's quoting the 3rd chapter of Malachi. There's 2 different words for prepare. He, Messiah, will prepare a way for you. That prepare means to create, to furnish, or to equip. That describes the building of the tabernacle, of Noah's ark, and the vessels associated with God's deliverance and his presence. If we allow him, God will prepare us to be the vessels through which his love, compassion, and grace can enter into this desperate world. Next, Mark says to prepare or make ready the way of the Lord. That prepare means to get ready for a big event, to make ready for something that won't happen until later. 5 times in Mark, it means to actually prepare the minds of men to give Messiah a fit or proper reception. It challenges us to change our hearts and our lives, to make ourselves ready to receive Emmanuel and everything that entails, to live our lives characterized by our desire to follow him, to suffer on account of him, and hope in the glorious eternal future, life he's promised us. In Mark, we don't see angels, hillside slopes, Mary, Joseph, baby Jesus, nothing we'd really expect to find. Instead, we hear the voice in the wilderness begging us to slow down, evaluate our hearts, and prepare the way of the Lord.